Are you ready for the Low Blows Network? Every Wednesday on the Low Blows Network, the Low Blows team are at hand to break down, analyse and make fun of all things pro wrestling. Hosted by former pro wrestler Rick Nash. I think the only reasonable thing we can do now is turn John Cena heel.
Selfie with me fucking Doug.
Banned from Nigeria. I will be talking to the government tomorrow morning. YouTube star Corporate King.
This elephant has 4 legs. Joe Russell's 4 legs. Joseph Stalin, if he had 2 more legs.
Bonesaw rips off his shirt, yeah, and says, "Chuck your law, big dirty tricorder."
And the Queen of Irish Wrestling, Katey Harvey.
I won't want to say just CM Punk.
So embarrassed. CM Punk.
It's Low Blows.
One of the segments we started in Low Blows in 2018 was Corporate King versus Life, and through that we've got to speak about the trials and tribulations of the likes of myself and our other co-host Katey Harvey, and in our day-to-day lives. And what we're realising and hearing through the feedback that we're getting for that segment is that wrestling fans relate a lot to this, and that's the reality of it. We all like the same thing and have ended up in the same position where I'm hosting Low Blows and you're listening. Because we're wrestling fans, we're similar enough, we've similar interests. And I think Corporate King versus Life resonates with so many people because that's who we are. And this is the corner of the world that we've chose to inhabit meekly and socially awkwardly while we get on with our day-to-day lives. So, with that said, I think I'm not alone in saying that Christmas can sometimes, maybe this is a wrestling fan condition, seem a bit overrated, a bit daunting with all of that in mind. I know I'm socially awkward at times. I've got social anxiety. I've been very open about this in the past. Like, it's, I love to see friends and family over the Christmas, don't get me wrong, like anyone else. But at the same time, it's a bit hard to get kind of into the spirit of it all like everyone else does. And it seems so easy for some people. Maybe that's just my wrestling fan condition. Fortunately, for me, for you, and for all the other wrestling fans out there, now we have our own Christmas. We have wrestling Christmas. It doesn't happen on December 25th. We still have to sit around and play games with family awkwardly and make small talk with relatives we only see once a year. But it does happen shortly after Christmas, January 4th to be precise, in the Tokyo Dome. It's Wrestle Kingdom, and Wrestle Kingdom 13 is coming back this year. This is our Christmas. This is what we live for. This is the 12 days of Wrestle Kingdom. I'm bringing that in next year. I don't know why I haven't done it this year. The 12 days of Wrestle Kingdom. And all of that, you get your next year we're going to do advent calendars, and it's like Okada doing Rainmakers. It's Tamatonga getting given out there for shit he says on Twitter, all that kind of shit, so this is our Christmas, and I want to wish you a happy wrestling Christmas as you listen to this, and a happy New Year as well. This is coming out on New Year's Day, so whenever you're listening, thank you for that. Rick Nash here for another edition of Low Blows. I'm flying solo again because I wanted to give Cian and Katey the Christmas off and let them have a break and spend it with their loved ones, or if you're Corporate Cian, make YouTube videos. So I'm flying solo for this one because let's call a spade a spade. We all know it. I'm the New Japan geek on the show, and I'm the one who wants to talk about this. Katey likes New Japan. She watches it. She keeps up with it. It's great as an active wrestler to see which way the wind is blowing and what the new trends are and stuff like that. But she's not a fan girl like I'd be a fanboy. And Cian, it's not his thing. He likes Lucha Underground. He likes MLW. He likes CZW. He likes weird shit. That's Cian's bag. So I'm the New Japan guy. And what I'm going to do for you now over the next hour or so is give you a Wrestle Kingdom preview. And if you're coming into this, as a lot of fans are, every year, and it's ever increasing now. It's great that more and more people are getting involved and getting kind of on the bandwagon. If you're coming into this and New Japan is new to you, but you hear the buzz on Twitter every single year, you can't avoid it. It lasts for like a week, people talking about which was the best match, this, that, the other. The wrestling world essentially changes. Like, WrestleMania has become kind of... it's become, commercialized, and I love a good WrestleMania, don't get me wrong, but it's become like a big event rather than a great wrestling card, which is what it used to be. So this is like, for purists and indie fans and Japanese wrestling fans and New Japan fans, this is like WrestleMania for us. It's Christmas and WrestleMania rolled into one. This is why I get excited about it. So what I want to do for newer fans who are kind of, on the outside, or for just hardcore New Japan fans who want to have the chats and kind of just listen to some stuff and listen to some chatter and get in the mood, we're going to cater for all of you guys. We're going to explain what New Japan is, what the big deal is. We're going to give you a Blaggers guide that you can take into it. If you're going to Buskers On The Ball on Friday for our second ever Wrestle Kingdom party, you can come along armed with the knowledge that you need to know going in and get a bit of context for every matches. You won't just be watching matches and wondering what the fuck is all this about. You actually get a bit of context and a bit of enjoyment out of it, so you can do that. Guys, like I said, we're going to be hosting our second ever Wrestle Kingdom party in Buskers On The Ball on Friday. Now, the thing with Wrestle Kingdom is, in Japan, which I don't know if you know, guys, but I've been there. I was actually over there for Wrestle Kingdom last year. I don't bring it up much, and I try not to talk about it. And I'm getting real emotional, actually. I am genuinely getting emotional thinking back to this time last year. Where I was getting ready for the plane, and I was so excited. I was learning Japanese phrases, and I only ended up knowing two that I could use well enough, which is arigato and hi and yay, which is thank you, yes and no. But fortunately, the people in Japan are very friendly. So yeah, I'm getting emotional and waxing nostalgic about that. But at the same time, this year I'm going to be home for the Wrestle Kingdom party. I had to miss our first one last year because I was away. It's going to be class. But the thing with Japan is, in the new year, it's a big deal. That's everywhere shuts down. I got there myself on January 3rd, the day before Wrestle Kingdom, and don't get me wrong, it was it was like New Year's Day in Ireland or Easter Sunday or something, where there's a lot of places are still open, especially in the big towns, but a lot of places are closed too. And then it kind of normal life when he kind of picks up from around January 4th and so on. So it's a big deal to them. It's a national holiday. People are off work, but that's not the case over here, obviously. So what happens is, because of the time difference, Wrestle Kingdom airs at 7 a.m. On Friday morning, and that doesn't suit a lot of people, because either one, you're in work, you're in college, you have something on, or number two, you don't do any of those things, so you sleep till 1 in the fucking day, especially over Christmas. So that doesn't suit most people. So what we're doing is, we're doing kind of we do no spoiler Mondays, but we're doing a no spoiler Friday for once, and we're showing it on that day, but we're showing it at a good time because it's a Friday night. It's the start of the weekend. It's the first weekend of the year. So we're going to be showing it that night. Doors open in Buskers at 5 p.m. We start the show from 6 p.m. sharp. We'll have the pre-show on beforehand, because there is a pre-show for New Japan. So we'll have that on beforehand, but then we'll start the main show from 6 p.m. And then, yeah, we've got a great night planned as well. It's not just going to be sit and watch Wrestle Kingdom. It's also we're going to have Fire Pro Wrestling, which is if you're into obscure wrestling video games, this is the king of them. It only came out last year. It has all loads of New Japan wrestlers. We retweeted on the Low Blows Twitter account Andy Mahon, a Low Blows Hall of Famer, who got the game over the Christmas and played it and kind of gave a bit of a review as he was playing it. So if you want to check out that, we'll have a Fire Pro Wrestling tournament as well, so you can get involved in that. It's going to be a great night, a typical Low Blows night. There's going to be a great atmosphere. You get a different crowd for the Japan shows as well. You get a more hardcore kind of smarky crowd as well. And the great thing about the New Japan parties is, you get to have a classic match. So we have our WrestleMania parties and our Royal Rumble parties. Now, the Rumble is always great crack anyway, because just the match itself, when you have an atmosphere and it's always packed out. But at the same time, the thing with WWE parties is we put on a great event around it and we make sure that everyone has fun and enjoys the night itself, but you can't always guarantee it's going to be a great card. With Wrestle Kingdom, you kind of can guarantee that. So you're going to get like at least one 5-star match. You're going to get like a classic and you're going to be around people for it. So it is well worth just avoiding Twitter on Friday. Just stay away from it. Don't get any spoilers. You only have to wait a few hours as well. It's not like No Spoiler Mondays where you have to wait like the next day to avoid everything. You just have to wait a few hours. Come into town, come into Buskers, have a great fucking night. And you'll also be armed with a lot of information. So what we're going to do is I'm going to break down the match. I'm going to break down the show match by match. And then we're going to give an honest trailer, bringing that back as a special for this. So you'll basically know everything that's going on. But also, the thing is, a lot of the people's reservations about watching New Japan are they don't understand it because it is different. Like, for example, they're like, oh, do we have to watch Japanese commentary? The answer is no for big shows. You have Kevin Kelly, former WWF commentator. You have Don Callis as well. Cyrus the Virus in ECW, or he was the interrogator or the Jackal in WWE. So you have guys commentating, and they're excellent commentators. So first off, no. But also as well, like, people don't understand what is New Japan, what's going on. So much like I did last year when we were doing the Wrestle Kingdom 12 party, I'll put together a little package letting you know everything that you need to know that will set you up for Friday. And then there's like loads of intricate differences, but like this will be a good entry point for what is New Japan. For normal people, a side effect of eating turkey is feeling tired. For wrestling fans, a side effect of eating turkey is wanting to watch Japanese men punch each other as hard as they can in the face. It's Wrestling Christmas. This January 4th as Wrestle Kingdom returns to Tokyo Dome. And I'm Rick Nash of Low Blows to take you through what you need to know about New Japan to follow along. What is New Japan? I saw in Westworld Old Japan had something to do with ninjas and samurais. Is it a modern version of that? I really like Westworld. It's got nothing to do with any of that. New Japan was formed in 1972 by Antonio Inoki, aka the legendary wrestler who lay on his back for an entire fight with Muhammad Ali. In Japan, pro wrestling is treated as a sport, and there are thousands of events by hundreds of different promotions hosted around the country in venues such as Cork and Hall. In the mid-90s, New Japan began to dominate as the largest promotion as Inoki stepped down and handed the booking reins over to tag team wrestler Gato. They built around the likes of Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kazuchika Okada, and Shinsuke Nakamura and became the undisputed second largest wrestling promotion in the world. Wrestle Kingdom is their equivalent of WrestleMania, taking place every January 4th in the 50,000-seater Tokyo Dome Stadium. I rarely mention this, but I was actually there last year, and also it has absolutely nothing to do with Westworld. What are the main differences between New Japan and WWE? Well, different tone voice of me. It's actually kind of like the difference between, say, Pixar movies and Westworld. Sure, we'll go with fucking Westworld. Look, we all grew up on WWE, and it's always going to hold a place in our hearts, but as you get older, you can't help but realise that you just haven't outgrown a children's TV show and get pissed off at the little things that bother you when you see it through the curtain. New Japan is a product primarily written for adults, presenting wrestling as a legitimate sporting contest between two athletes. Nobody is dead aside from the soul of Minoru Suzuki. There's no evil authority figures, poorly scripted promos, or bad backstage vignettes. It's athletes competing for title belts. Matches and feuds are both simple and complex, with intricate storylines being meted out in a way you often have to read Twitter to understand fully, including callback spots and little gestures or facial expressions that can change everything. Like MMA, almost every wrestler is aligned to a stable of some sort that represents their ideologies. Los Ingobernables de Japón are the cool stable fronted by Tetsuya Naito. The newly formed Elite stable are fronted by Kenny Omega, Cody, the Young Bucks, and all the lads off YouTube. Chaos are the Fighting Spirit stable of good guys led by Okada. Suzuki Gun are the lovable rogues, Bullet Club are irrelevant, and it goes on like that. Cards tend to be structured in order of importance, with multi-man matches usually filling out the bottom end of smaller cards before the big singles or tag main events. Though in Wrestle Kingdom, the majority of matches are usually title matches. That actually makes things easier to follow as you start off, as the multi-man matches are really only for more hardcore fans looking to squeeze every last bit of detail and intricacy out of a feud, so you can just watch the top half of most cards to follow along. There are also little differences, like 20 counts for countouts, and a quicker cadence than WWE's count. Interferences and small finishes do happen, but they're more rare, while gimmick matches are also extremely rare. Referees are allowed to use discretion when refereeing, and it tends to be no disqualification once the action hits the outside, as the logic is wrestlers choose to take the fight to the outside, so there anything can happen. The in-ring style is based around fighting spirit and the will to win. It can seem like Japanese lads are stiffing each other and no-selling to the untrained eye, but it's actually just a different ideology, with the idea being that the best wrestlers are the ones who can absorb the most punishment, then win anyway. Like I said, you'll regularly get callback spots as counters to moves attempted in matches 6 months ago because wrestlers have since scouted each other and so on. They don't spoon feed you like WWE, but you're a big boy who doesn't need to be spoon fed, right? I don't know about that. Anyway, look, there's a lot of wrestling these days. I go to shows nearly every weekend, try keep up with WWE, and I like shows like, well, yeah, Westworld too. I don't know if I have time to follow another promotion regularly. You don't need to. While New Japan do have weekly shows in Japan and America, its calendar is actually fairly easy to follow along. They run 1 or 2 big shows per month on average, with a build-up around tournaments such as the Best of Super Juniors in June and the G1 Climax in July and August that you can opt in and out of in truth, although you'll want to opt in once you're hooked. If you don't have anything you regularly watch more often than not on, say, a Saturday or Sunday morning due to the time difference, you can follow this easily. You can also subscribe to New Japan World for around €8 per month to get all of it on your PC, phone, laptop or TV to watch whenever you like. Or just come along to Buskers On The Ball on the evening of 4th of January, see if it hooks you around like-minded fans, and go from there. So there you have it, guys. If you're wondering, is Rick going a bit mental over the Christmas, you got to hear me have a conversation with myself. That is not reassured you at all, but I hope that helped explain some of the differences. So we're going to get to the card now. We're going to go match by match on this. I'm going to give you my personal picks because, of course, don't forget, from Wednesday on Facebook.com/#LowBlows, we'll have a brand new prediction league starting. So you can get involved in that, kind of send in your picks, you know, if you're, whether you're educated or you just have to guess. A lot of it is one-on-one. There are a couple three-ways, so like it is, even if you don't know, it is a 50-50 shot, but also this will kind of inform you and at least let you make up your own mind on it. And if worse comes to worse, you can just copy my picks and like live or die based on that. But keep in mind, I often get New Japan wrong, so take all of this with a pinch of salt. But I know what's going on. We start off with the pre-show. It's the never open weight 6-man titles, number 1 contendership on the line because the champions are wrestling on the show. Gorillas of Destiny and Taiji Ishimori. They're wrestling in separate matches, title matches on the show. So it's for the number 1 contendership. The winners will face them at New Year's Dash. You've got the most violent players. It's a gauntlet match, by the way. So you've got the most violent players. You've got Toru Yano and Togi Makabe and Ryusuke Taguchi, who is Fergal Devitt's, Finn Balor's old tag team partner back in the day in New Japan. Against Yuji Nagata, Jeff Cobb and David Finlay. And then there's Chaos in there. You've got Hiroki Goto, wrestled in the National Stadium for OTT there in October. You've got Trent Beretta and Chucky T, of course, best friends. And you've got Suzuki Gun as well, Minoru Suzuki and the Killer Elite Squad. And then you've got the Elite, Hangman Page, Marty Scurll and Yujiro Takahashi. What you might be thinking there and noticing is that there's a lot of big names in this match. Like Minoru Suzuki didn't get a match on this show, like, so he was kind of thrown into the multi-man. Again, the gauntlet matches are fun, they're grand, they kill a lot of time as well if they're on the pre-show, so that's kind of why New Japan like them and go back to them every year. I'm a bit raging that the Battle Royal isn't making a return. Usually they do a Rumble and it's always really fun. Cheeseburger usually ends up showing up. He gets a one New Japan book in a year. He usually ends up being like one of the last 4. He's a comedy act basically. I think it's a piss take of if you've ever seen Menace to Society or Don't Be a Menace in South Central while drinking the juice in the hood, where it's like, I got these cheeseburgers, if you've never seen him before. So he's obviously not getting booked here, but it's a stacked card, and that's the kind of the point. Marty Scurll as well, someone they couldn't make time for. Hangman Page obviously had a big year, doesn't get a match, so he's thrown in here. Look, the reality is that the never openweight 6-man titles don't matter that much. They're there because people like it's a title match. It can be a main event on shows like New Year's Dash and like kind of regular shows in New Japan. If they need it, it's a title change. If they need something to like bolster a card or something, it doesn't really matter that much. In terms of who I'd go with here, I'd probably go with Suzuki Gun. Just because Minoru Suzuki, biggest name in this match, and it gives him something. Killer Elite Squad have kind of been left out of the IWGP heavyweight tag team division lately. They've kind of built around more Guerrillas of Destiny, Evil and Sonata, the Young Bucks, etc. So it gives them something to do and it gives them relevance. You always want Minoru Suzuki strong as well because he can go toe to toe with Okada, with Tanahashi, Omega. He can be credible against them. So that's who I'd lean towards here. People that like I'm looking out for that could see this as a big match are the likes of Trent Beretta and Chucky T. Trent Beretta, of course, you might remember a couple of years ago at Wrestle Kingdom, did a swanton bomb onto the floor at Wrestle Kingdom as part of Roppongi Vice. He's an absolute nutcase. Chucky T making his Wrestle Kingdom debut. He's obviously hilarious and he's getting over in New Japan slowly but surely as well. So they're going to want to come out and they're going to want to make a statement in this, whereas the likes of Suzuki, Goto, etc. mightn't see this as necessarily a priority or one of their big matches. So you want to look out for stuff like that as well. And you have Tori, and there's too. He's always good crack. So it'll be an entertaining match. I'd lean towards Suzuki Gun, but anyone can win this match. You don't know. It's a gauntlet match as well. So you can have Suzuki Gun come out first. We don't know the order. You have Suzuki Gun come out first, go through everyone else, and then lose in the final one if they have another plan. We don't know. We shall see. And then on New Year's Dash, that'll get paid off when Guerrillas of Destiny and Ishimori are fighting. On to the main card. And like I said in the explainer package there, where I was talking to myself, New Japan structure their cards in a way where it's, in order of importance. They don't structure it like WWE. WWE tend to put if there's a great match, but it's like an undercard match, or if it's like a big entrance like New Day, and it'll get the crowd kind of involved right away. They'll put them on first, even regardless of if it's the biggest or smallest match on the card. Obviously, they wouldn't put the main event on first, although they did once. Remember that time? That was weird. So New Japan do it differently. They tend to go in order of importance. So, like I said in the package, you can not for this show, Wrestle Kingdom, watch it all. But for the other shows, there'll be a lot of 6-man tags and so on early in the cards, and then you can kind of tune in halfway. That isn't the case here. The first match on the show, they're kind of going a bit WWE, but it also works within the New Japan framework because the title they're fighting for isn't that important. It's the never openweight single championship. It's Kota Ibushi, the champion, defending against Will fucking Ospreay. This could be the match of the night in the opener. And it's really cool that New Japan are going this way. Now, the never openweight championship is very similar to the never 6-man title in that it's not that important. I think Michael Elgin held it for about 48 hours at some stage this year, and then they just kind of switched it back to Goto just because they're like, nah, Michael Elgin, we got a bit of a blowback for that decision. So yeah, it's not the most important title, and it's not something that people are vying for, but it's a good excuse to get guys on the card. The never openweight title match last year, Suzuki against Goto, was one of the matches that everyone talked about. You might remember if you're one of these guys like some people tune in for the Super Bowl every year but don't watch any NFL, and a lot of wrestling fans will tune in for Wrestle Kingdom every year just to kind of know what everyone's talking about but not watch. You might remember a few years ago, Shibata was in a feud. I think it was Yuji Nagata he wrestled. And it was kind of like the new school versus the old school. He went through like all of the older guys in the New Japan roster, because in Japan they respect their elders and they treat them like they're old, tough veterans. They're not kind of like jobbed out like in WWE or turned into comedy characters. So Shibata kind of established himself. It was a bit of a like legend killer gimmick like Randy Orton. But the never openweight title, it's kind of like the European title was in WWE. It's like, why is this here? It's not really important it doesn't kind of set you up for anything, but it gives you kind of, on say house shows and so on, and smaller shows in New Japan, it gives them a main event for a title if they need it. So it's not the most important title, but it gives them good excuses to have good matches, and they've absolutely knocked it out of the park with this one. Kota Ibushi and Will Ospreay, these two have never faced each other one-on-one, and that's kind of the big selling point for this match as well, because also what's known about these two is they're fucking nutcases. They're actually like suicidal at times. Like, you have Will Ospreay, who goes out and talks in promos about how, you know, he likes to be like Dynamite Kid. Hopefully not like putting a shotgun at his missus's face, but like more in terms of putting his body on the line, I imagine, is what he means by that. Though Will Ospreay can be a bit of a tool sometimes, you never know. But he'll like kind of go on and like say he wants to be like Dynamite Kid, even though a lot of people are like, oh, you have to wrestle safe these days, your body is your business. Will Ospreay's like, no, I will put my body on the line, and when you see it, he kind of does do that in practice. Kota Ibushi is just an absolute nutcase. Like, my lasting image of Kota Ibushi being a nutcase is just him brawling outside. I remember, I think it was on a British show, he was fighting on top of a car and setting off fireworks at his opponent. That's Kota Ibushi. They're both crazy. They both will want to steal the show. The only problem for Ibushi, really, and the reason he could have been in the main event here, he was in the G1 Climax final, which is like a tournament in New Japan to decide who the number one contendership for this show is. So kind of their equivalent to the Royal Rumble, except it's like a month-long tournament that decides it. He was in the final at this the last year's G1 against Tanahashi. The problem for him is he hasn't committed to New Japan fully. However, there's also a possibility that, and it's good that it's working out that he's on the opener, that he might be involved in some way with the main event, which we'll discuss in a bit. So, but he is one of the best wrestlers in the world. Will Ospreay, also one of the best wrestlers in the world. This is the show where people bring their A game. This is going to be fantastic. I cannot wait for it. In terms of who's going to win, there's been talks about this. I think Ospreay was meant to win the title in September, I think it was, against Taichi, which Kota Ibushi ended up winning himself. He beat Hiroki Goto. Or he was supposed to wrestle Taichi for the right to face Hiroki Goto for the title. Kota Ibushi ended up beating Hiroki Goto, and they got there this way. But it probably would have went the reverse way if Will Ospreay hadn't got injured and not got that match. But the background, so Will Ospreay has been talking about moving up to heavyweight for a while. He had a couple year run where he was the top dog in the junior division, which is their equivalent of the cruiserweights. So I'd probably lean towards him. Again, it's a total pick'em though, much of a muchness. The never openweight title isn't that important, but Will Ospreay could transition into heavyweight. I could see them doing more with Ospreay, whereas I think Kota Ibushi may be directly involved in the next title feud for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, so there's no need. So I'm after talking myself into it, I'm leaning strongly towards Ospreay here. Next matchup, the IWGP Junior Tag Team titles are on the line. A three-way dance. It's Kanemaru and Desperado against Roppongi 3K, against Bushi and Shingo Takagi from Los Ingobernables. Do you notice that for long-term listeners of Low Blows who pay close attention, I had the biggest struggle for years pronouncing Los Ingobernables. I could still be saying it wrong, but I feel more confident saying it, so you might notice I'm showing off a bit. If you feel like you've seen this match before, if you're a New Japan fan, you're not wrong. You have. You literally saw it a few weeks ago. It was the final of the Super Junior Tag Tournaments that actually directly led us here. Kanemaru and Desperado against Roppongi also happened at New Beginning and Dominion. And this exact match with Hiromu instead of Shingo happened at the New Japan 46th anniversary during the year. That was where Kanemaru and Desperado won the Junior Tag Team titles. And it also happened at Sakura Genesis. So this has been the Junior Heavyweight title match. You know, one thing that a lot of people have gripes about, and I get it, it's annoying, is that Gato, who is the booker for New Japan and also will be involved in a storyline, we'll get onto that later. He's also a manager and he wrestles occasionally as well. Gato was a former tag team wrestler with Jado for years, and that was the thing. He took over New Japan booking, like we explained in the package earlier, in the mid-noughties, and kind of revolutionized the way the company was run, and is an excellent booker. But his one flaw, ironically, is tag team wrestling. And that's the problem with this. We'll get on to the other tag team match that's on the show as well, and it's kind of the same thing. It's really paint by numbers. They have their big tag team matches. It's not a priority, and it's not it's like it never has been. In Japan in general, you'd find it rare that you'd have like a big tag team match as a main event to a show. Even though a tag team match with the Golden Lovers and the Young Bucks was one of our Japanese or indie matches of the year in the recent Blowy Awards. But they just don't prioritize it that much, and it's a shame because for a tag team wrestler you'd think he could book it better, but this has been the match. It's there because it's a good match. Like, it's the junior division as well, so it's, you know, you're going to get high flying, you're going to get cool spots. There's no real reason, though, to care about the result or the winner. I'd like one good description as I was kind of doing research for this that I read was it's like the ladder match at WrestleMania 16. You have Kanemaru and Desperado, the Dudley Boys, who are definitely the heels in the feud, but also like they're cool and people kind of like them, especially Desperado. He had a great year in the Best of Super Juniors. People are calling for him to get more. You have Bushi and Shingo Takagi, who are the cool Hardy Boys by association with Los Ingobernables, although they're both great in the ring too. And then you've got Roppongi 3K, who would be Edge and Christian. Again, this is WrestleMania 16. They were kind of the less popular babyface tag team. They were like the not Hardy Boys tag team. But they're obviously great in the ring, and they had careers that ended up dwarfing the Hardy Boys, particularly as a tag team in the end. So Roppongi... you have Takagi in there as well. He's the new LIJ member, Los Ingobernables de Japón. Sorry, I'm just showing off now. I'm just really happy that I can say it again. And I haven't got a chance because they don't let me talk about New Japan all the time on the show. Takagi is the new LIJ member. He kind of replaced Hiromu. Not really in terms of like the card. We'll discuss the junior division and the implications Hiromu Takahashi's neck injury had for that later on. He's been alright. He's been grand. He's filling the hole. I'd probably lean towards LIJ getting the win here because LIJ are the most over faction. Again, we spoke earlier about how New Japan is based around factions and, you know, everyone is associated with a team. LIJ are the cool team. Like I said, I've said on the show before, last year when I was in Tokyo, I went into the New Japan store, and that's how big it is. They have an official store right around the corner from Tokyo Dome, which opens all year. So, but LIJ merch obviously was a busy time at Wrestle Kingdom on the next day. LIJ merch, they couldn't stock it. There was literally a staff member running around like throwing stuff back out because it was selling out immediately. I've never seen it. It was like a gold rush. Like, that's how popular LIJ are locally. So I lean towards them personally. Roppongi 3K are really good. They both individually had great Best of Super Junior tournaments as singles wrestlers during the summer as well. So they're always a good default. They're like the Roppongi 3K are Sho and Yo, who came from Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta were Roppongi Vice, basically. Roppongi is like the Temple Bar of Tokyo, basically. They ended up both kind of going their separate ways. Rocky Romero is getting older. He's doing a lot of commentary these days more than anything else. He does still wrestle occasionally in like tag team matches and so on. And he's also, I think, the trainer in the New Japan Dojo in the US, and he's involved in a lot of the backstage stuff on the English side. So Rocky Romero brought back Sho and Yo, and that's the thing. Roppongi 3K were a great team and always popular, always over with the fans, always had good matches. So they're like every time the division was in a hole, they defaulted to Roppongi Vice or the Young Bucks for the longest time. Roppongi are kind of that now. When it's in a hole and you don't have anything else, now they do have something else that they can get behind in kind of Shingo and Bushi. So I'd say they're going to give them a run here. That'd be my thoughts. But Roppongi would be second for me. I think Kanemaru and Desperado, they've had a good run, but for the sake of having another title change, let's just go with this. British Heavyweight Championship is on the line in another absolute belter that could be match of the year. Tomohiro Ishii, again, a lot of you will know. These are two people OTT fans will know. Tomohiro Ishii wrestled twice. He wrestled in Slammiversary, I was going to say. He wrestled in Scrappermania, and he wrestled at WrestleRama 2 in OTT. The Stone Pitbull, an absolute boss. known by some to be the best wrestler in the world. He faces Zack Sabre Jr., who obviously we're all familiar with. Of course, faced Jordan Devlin in the Scrappermania main event this year and absolutely kills it. Having a career year as well. Look, the thing is, any New Japan purists, they know the sus with Ishii. But now the great thing is the world is catching on, especially after G1, because people kind of pay attention for G1 and then kind of zone out again. And Ishii had amazing matches at G1. I think he had a classic with Goto. He had a match of the year contender with Kenny Omega as well. And then they had a rematch because Ishii ended up being the first guy, I think, in the tournament to beat Kenny Omega, and that was on the last week. So he has absolute classics, and he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's similar enough to Chris Benoit in WWE, not that he murdered his family or anything like that. I'm making a lot of unfortunate comparisons, like Dynamite Kid and Chris Benoit. I need to figure out other people, but he's very similar to Chris Benoit in WWE before Benoit won the title at WrestleMania 20. He's a great wrestler, possibly the best that they have in terms of if you're rating his average match quality, match by match. Not that I like to do star ratings or whatever, but if you were, he would be up there constantly. He can credibly beat anyone. He's much like Suzuki in that. He can stand across from anyone. But he's also too vanilla to push. New Japan is very based on... Keep in mind, this is the company that brought you Shinsuke Nakamura in the form that you see him in WWE. This is a company that's very character-based as well. They love their great wrestling, and that's their priority. But at the same time, they do love characters. You know, you have other companies like Pro Wrestling Noah and All Japan who be more wrestling-based purists. You have two guys in black trunks going out and having an absolute war and a classic. But at the same time, it can be quite vanilla. Ishii, unfortunately, is just that tough guy. So, especially when it comes around to Wrestle Kingdom, it breaks your heart that he's not involved in a bigger match. This, to me, is a thank you to him. He's been the British Heavyweight Champion for a few months now. He beat Zack Sabre Jr., lost it to Suzuki, then won it back during the year as well. He's been the British Heavyweight Champion for a large part of the year. New Japan on Wrestle Kingdom tend to have a title defended from another show. So Ring of Honor have got it a few years, or from another company that they're associated and work with. Ring of Honor got it for a few years now. Rev Pro are getting it, so that's their championship being defended. So I think he's getting this as a thank you for the year that he's had, as a recognition for that. And Ishii can have a classic match, so this is going to be a classic. And the thing is, he's wrestling someone who's coming off a career year himself. Zack Sabre Jr. as well. We spoke about the Scrappermania feud with Jordan Devlin. But it was the year he established himself as, we knew that technique-wise, Zack Sabre Jr. was one of the best in the world for the longest time, but he established himself as one of the top 5, the elite, the best, the trendsetters, the one that is setting the pace for everyone else this year. He signed full-time with New Japan. He won the New Japan Cup, defeating Naito, Bushi, Sanada, and Tanahashi on the way. Huge names to knock off, and he was absolutely fantastic. He kind of got into a lot more character-based stuff while he was wrestling for Suzuki Gun, with who he joined last year. In 2017, you know what I mean. It's confusing. It's the new year. He was paired with Taka Michinoku, and that kind of got over as well. Taka is his manager. He comes out and he does Japanese promos with a bit of broken English in there. His phrase is "just tap out." So that really works as well. He had an incredible debut in the G1 Climax tournament. He wrestled Constant Classics. He is the reigning Rev Pro Tag Team Champion with Minoru Suzuki. He won Super Strong Style 16 with Progress. His matches with Ishii, where he obviously lost his title, we mentioned that, and Matt Riddle, where he lost the Evolve title, were the highlights of WrestleMania weekend. He is having an absolute career year, and he deserves this spot. As for who wins, I don't know. I'd lean slightly towards Ishii retaining. The only reason I would is because it's maybe Rev Pro will be we'd actually like to do the switch on our shows. Now, here's where I'm shit, I haven't done my homework enough. Maybe Rev Pro, I doubt they have, but maybe they've announced a match that's coming up that kind of tips their hat in terms of that could be a title match, or I don't know. But I would lean slightly towards Ishii here. He's New Japan born and bred. He's getting, finally, after wrestling in the likes of the Gauntlet match, he was in a tag team with Toru, which was kind of an oddball comedy tag team. Toru, was mental and playing tricks and pranks on everyone, and Ishii is obviously the straight hard man. He was teaming with him for years, and he kind of that was a lot at Wrestle Kingdom because he just was never kind of considered for the bigger matches. So I'd say this is his thank you and his commendation, and I'd say Zack Sabre Jr. getting a singles match to begin with is enough for him. So I'd lean slightly towards Ishii. I may think about it before Friday and change my mind. We shall see, though. But either run is good for this, and it's going to be an absolutely class match. The IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles are on the line in a three-way. Are you noticing a trend here? Are you seeing what I'm saying about Gato? You can see that his creative it's not flaws, it's just a laziness when it comes to tag team wrestling. It's the exact same as the IWGP Junior Tag Team title scenario. That was a three-way too, this is a three-way. And the reason they're three-ways is because it's like, we can't leave anyone off, which is the kind of booking I hate. But it's Gorillas of Destiny, the champions, against Evil and Sonata against the Young Bucks. To be fair, the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Division has had a bit of a renaissance this year. Last year, leading up to Wrestle Kingdom, we were in constant... it was just the same match over and over and over again. Kind of like what I'm saying about the Junior Tag Team Division, and this is Gato's blind spot. It was Gorillas of Destiny, Killer Elite Squad, and War Machine. Literally, I remember they did a tour... late in the year in 2017, and they wrestled 3 or 4 times on every show, the exact same match, and it just became monotonous. So when Evil and Sonata won the tag team titles at Wrestle Kingdom last year, it was kind of this could be interesting. They could do stuff with it. They also won the World Tag League, which is how that led to being here. The World Tag League is so the G1 is their big tournament, but they also have the Best of Super Juniors, which I referred to earlier. That's essentially the equivalent of it's the same as G1, except the winner gets a title shot at Dominion, and it's for the junior division. The World Tag League is the heavyweight tag team tournament that they have, and then you have the Super Junior Tag Tournament, and that sets up the title shots at Wrestle Kingdom, though obviously there are ways around it. The Young Bucks as well are another kind of wrinkle to this, because they've made the jump to heavyweight after kind of doing all they could in the junior heavyweight division. I think if they'd opened the show in the junior heavyweight tag team title match again, it just would have been we can't do this every year, lads. Obviously they're having big years, they're part of the elite. They're All In, of course, speaks for itself. Being the elite on YouTube has become an absolute worldwide sensation. Now we're talking about All Elite Wrestling, so they're a good bet to pick for this match. They won the tag team titles at Dominion, but they never got their rematch against Evil and Sonata. Gorillas of Destiny, again, so this is slightly more in-depth, and the teams mean more than the junior tag team division, because all three have kind of had banner years and are actually established to care about these titles. Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tangaloa, they did their firing squad. So you may remember me talking about it on the show. They did their firing squad reset. They are now leading the Bullet Club. Remember when they attacked Kenny Omega and Cody after their match in the US during the year, and they were the Bullet Club OGs. Along with Bad Luck Fale. So when there was the whole Bullet Club civil war going on between Kenny Omega and Cody, and people were taking sides and whatnot, the Bullet Club OGs kind of never picked a side. And then after Kenny Omega and Cody had their big match in the blow off to that kind of feud, the OGs ended up coming out. They called themselves the Firing Squad, and they took over and they absolutely destroyed everyone involved. They said, we're not picking sides, we're just going to beat the shit out of you all, with Haku as well, who is their father. So there's that too. And then also, you might remember they had a big year. They shit on the G1 Climax tournament. Every match they were in ended up in some shitty interference or some DQ. They said they didn't care about getting the title shot. They just wanted to establish themselves as a team. Again, I kind of shit on that a bit on the show, because it's why is there motivation to be in the, never open weight 6-man match at Wrestle Kingdom when you can be in the title match? But it was different. It was interesting. It gave some kind of level of interest to matches that may not have mattered, because Tama Tonga was never going to win that tournament, even if Keane really wanted them to. Then they won the belts at Fighting Spirit Unleashed in September to add to their never six-man belts with Taiji Ishimori that we spoke about earlier. So they're the stakes for all three teams. All three teams have motivation to win here. I don't see Guerrillas of Destiny retaining. I'd lean toward Evil and Sonata are never a bad pick, but I'd lean towards Young Bucks getting the titles because again the American expansion, huge in New Japan now. That's kind of their big motivation. I'd lean towards Young Bucks winning this personally. They could be Evil and Sonata again, LIJ, but I've got LIJ winning the junior tag team titles. I don't think they're going to hold the junior and heavyweight at the same time. There's just no point. Although it would be interesting. Like Naito is in the Intercontinental title match. Like, if everyone in LIJ held the gold at the same time. That's more of a WWE trope than a New Japan trope, to be fair. But they do need to rebuild LIJ, because Naito's had kind of a down year. I'm going to pick the Young Bucks here, but there's food for thought there. That would be your logic why Evil and Sonata would retain. Again, Guerrillas of Destiny can lose, and they're still champions. They still have the never openweight titles. They're not as hot anymore now that they're kind of them and Jay White are essentially and Balak Fale are essentially Bullet Club. They're just not as hot. The firing squad thing hasn't panned out. It's because they're not that great in the ring. They don't have classic matches. They can do interesting promos, and Tamatonga always says mad shit on Twitter, so they're interesting, but they're not great. So they haven't really caught on like I think New Japan would have expected. So I'd say them least likely. Evil and Sonata are an interesting one if you like the LIJ winning all the belts theory, and Naito probably is going to I am thinking about it, but I'm going to pick the Young Bucks. I'm going to stick with that. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. The US title is on the line. Cody Rhodes, Runnels, whatever you want to call him, Cody faces Juice Robinson. This is kind of like a diet version of Jericho against Naito in that Cody won the belt at Fighting Spirit Unleashed and hasn't returned since, so Juice is just getting his rematch here. And it's kind of a damn squib match. Like, I'm delighted. Juice Robinson, of course, for anyone who doesn't know, CJ Parker from NXT, he's absolutely, like, I understand if you're not that enthused about CJ Parker from NXT being in a match on the Smart Mark WrestleMania. I get it if you haven't kind of paid much attention. Although, obviously, he did make his OTT debut at WrestleRama 2 this year, WrestleDishi, a classic match. But he has put in the work. He got released from NXT. He went, signed up for the New Japan Dojo, basically started from scratch, became Juice Robinson, developed this new look and persona. His promos are very 80s white meat babyface, but like with personalities, kind of got a bit of a stoner kind of humor to him. Like, he's like, oh, come on, man, I'm going to fuck shit up. Yeah, it's going to be cool, man. He's really cool guy. Got to meet him as well while he was over, so really cool guy as well. So it's great to see him get a Wrestle Kingdom match, and a match that we'll talk about he has a good chance in. But at the same time, there's no build to this. Cody's been missing. He tore his meniscus, which we spoke about on the show throughout the year. And that means he's likely going to need surgery after Wrestle Kingdom. He's putting off the surgery so he could do Ring of Honor Final Battle, which is already in the can, and Wrestle Kingdom. So that kind of also tips the hats to which way this match is going. If Cody wasn't hurt, I'd say they'd keep the belt on him just for the sake of giving Cody something. But I think Juice is odds on to regain the title. Get a big Tokyo Dome win as like a thank you for everything. Thank you for working hard. And yeah, continues his meteoric, unlikely rise in New Japan. And it'll be a feel-good moment. It'll be a fine match. But if you need to take a piss, you can probably take a piss here. Because what's coming up from then on is absolutely get your arse in your seat. It's must watch. The IWGP Junior Championship is on the line. It's Kushida against Taiji Ishimori. This match is going to be amazing. It is just the second time, you might have seen on our social media thread the week, just the second time the two have faced each other one-on-one, which is mental when you consider like Best of Super Juniors tournament and stuff like that. The first time they faced each other was 2 years ago, the Super J Cup first round. New Japan have released it for free on YouTube. We put up the links to that match if you want to check it out via our social media. But it's hard not to wonder. The problem is, even though it's going to be an amazing match and these two are going to kill it because they're getting an opportunity for a one-on-one match high up in the card on Wrestle Kingdom, it's hard not to kind of wonder what if. and what the ghost of Hiromu Takahashi, he's not dead, like he's fine, he's recovering, but he broke his neck. He won the Junior Heavyweight Championship at Dominion, which is their SummerSlam in June of last year. Finally kind of crawled his way back to the card. He came back to New Japan 2 years ago with a time bomb persona. He had Daryl the cat, which was just a stuffed toy cat, and he played this kind of unhinged character that was part of LIJ. Him and Naito are always great crack if they're tagging together. They just mess and fuck around. They're really popular with the fans. He quickly won the Junior Heavyweight title, and then he lost it and kind of became just a mid-carder. In New Japan, wrestling a lot of tag matches, didn't get a lot of opportunities, which was a shame. And then eventually the fans kind of willed him on because he was so charismatic, so entertaining. The fans willed him on, and it ended up to him winning the Best of Super Juniors Cup last year and beating Will Ospreay to kind of ascend back to the top of the junior division, now completely accepted and beloved by the fans. Unfortunately, he was then defending that belt against Dragon Lee in a match. I think it was in one of the US shows. Took Northern Lights Driver, which is Dragon Lee's finisher, and it's a shame because him and Dragon Lee are like, they're Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in New Japan. They constantly wrestle each other. They know each other inside out. They feuded in Mexico and stuff like that. He took a Northern Lights Driver, ended up landing on his neck, and it was absolutely sick. He broke his neck. It's still up in the air whether he'll ever wrestle again. Dave Meltzer came out a few weeks ago and said that there is no return date and there is no confirmation that he is in fact coming back. So it's tough not to wonder what would have happened here. Kushida is the ace of the junior division, and this is kind of, he's probably got a better Wrestle Kingdom match out of this, but also it goes against the planned trajectory of his career because he was planning to move up to heavyweight just like Will Ospreay was because he'd done everything there was to do in the junior division. But then Hiromu got hurt. That put the stalls on this because they needed a safe pair of hands because the junior division, the bad news is it's kind of threadbare now. It'll be interesting as they have to kind of rebuild it leading up to the Super Juniors tournament, and they get a chance to reset it. Hopefully Hiromu will be back at some stage as well. It'd be great in the very near future. He's one of my favourite wrestlers today. I'd love to see it, but not just for him as much as they need him badly. Kushida had to come back, hold the title in place for a while. He's a great wrestler though. You might have seen him in OTT, and his heavyweight move was dropped. But like I said, he's got a better Wrestle Kingdom match. Taiji Ishimori is an interesting one. He debuted or returned to New Japan as Bone Soldier last year, part of the Bullet Club. He's still a part. Of course, we spoke about him being the never openweight 6-man tag team champion with Guerrillas of Destiny. He destroyed Will Ospreay upon his debut. There was a big deal. He stormed to the final of Best of Super Juniors, where he was just bested by Hiromu Takahashi. Everyone was like, he is the guy. The problem was that match with Hiromu Takahashi, believe it or not, was his last singles match in New Japan. That was in June. That's mental. So he's kind of like Hiromu Takahashi was in that he was this hot property. Everyone was dying to see what he had. It was clear he's really talented, but then after the initial push died, they just kind of didn't know what to do with him. And the thing is, with this title match, there wasn't any big number one contenders feud. He was just kind of named. I think he beat Kushida in a tag team match, and then he was just kind of named in this. He hasn't even had a singles match coming up to this. So it's a tough one because they need to rehabilitate him for the sake of depth to the division. So I would pick Ishimori to win here because, again, if he doesn't, who does Kushida have left to face? Desperado, maybe. He's up there. But Ishimori could face him as well because LIJ, they're heels, but everyone loves them. So they can work either side of the babyface heel thing. Desperado would be someone that could be in the mix. Bushi, Takagi as well will be in there. Oh, sorry, Desperado's part of Suzuki Gun. I'm getting mixed up there. But Suzuki Gun are very similar in that respect, in that they're cool heels. And Desperado has a lot of the smart mark vote as well. But there's not that many people that are there and ready for a title shot, so they really need to give it to Ishimori here. Kushida doesn't need it. Kushida, they can get a couple months worth of rematches out of this if they need it for bigger shows. But if Kushida beats Ishimori here, there's nowhere left to go. They need to rehab Ishimori now. This is his time, and it could set up as well if Ishimori gets a nice long run with the title. If hopefully Hiromu gets the all clear and is able to come back wrestling, it sets up like a rematch of their classic Best of Super Juniors final, which for Hiromu to get his title back. So it'd be interesting. That's who I go with. Kushida, sometimes New Japan will play it safe though. You look at Okada against Naito last year. Naito was dead set after winning the G1. The entire storyline was finally Naito's coming back, an absolute star. He's in the main event at Tokyo Dome and he's going to take out Okada. The crowd want this. This is like Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels. They have willed him here. This is the moment. And then they had Okada win just because he's their guy. And they had other plans that we'll speak about. But yeah, sometimes New Japan will just default to their guys, and Kushida is very much one of their guys. Ishimori, like I said, hasn't wrestled a singles match in New Japan in 6 months, so he's not one of their guys. So I'm doubting myself there. I'm going to pick Ishimori just because there's nowhere else they can go. Bar to say for a big debut on New Year's Dash, which we're not hearing much about yet. So Ishimori by default here. Now, our 3 main events, starting with a match we've talked about a lot on Low Blows over the past year. Kazuchika Okada against Switchblade Jay White. Look, if you've been listening and if you've been paying attention, which I talk about New Japan a lot. I'm going on, and I'm no bother chatting away to myself here, talking about this show. I've absolutely zero problem going on. I'm nearly an hour in already. That's mental. That's not a normal way to live. So I wouldn't blame you if you tune out when I start waffling on about New Japan. So I'll give you the cliff notes if you haven't been listening to this as we've covered it. White surprised people at the start of the year. He debuted last year as Switchblade. It's what New Japan do. They have guys wrestle as young guys who are basically jobbers in generic ring gear. He did that for a while, and then they send him off an excursion. They let them wrestle in the UK. Jay White wrestled on OTT Scrappermania not last year, but the year before. And that's the kind of stuff they do. They have them work the big indies, kind of get a bit of polish, get some, learn different styles, etc. And then they bring them back with a big character. He re-debuted just before Wrestle Kingdom last year, took out Hiroshi Tanahashi, wrestled him at Wrestle Kingdom, which was a big ass match for him. Tanahashi is it's like wrestling John Cena at WrestleMania, basically. It's a big deal if you get that match. It was disappointing. To be honest, but then the next day, people were excited about the character, and they're like, right, obviously New Japan sees something in this, so we all want to get on board and see if we can see what they see. So the next day, Kenny Omega at New Year's Dash, which is every year on January 5th, it's their Raw after WrestleMania, where they kind of reset everything and big debuts and big news. Kenny Omega announced that he wanted Jay White to join it. Jay White turned on Kenny Omega. He ended up joining Chaos, which is strange because Jay White as Switchblade is such a massive heel character. He's a bit Bray Wyatt would be kind of the comparison I can make. It's the closest way I can describe it, without the kind of creepy laughter or kind of mysterious, kind of spooky element of it. He's just kind of he even does Bray Wyatt's finisher. He does Sister Abigail. That's his finisher. But he's just spooky and dark and murky and stuff like that. So he joined Chaos, which is the fighting spirit stable. It's like the good guys. Yeah! The people who make their entrance and introduce show. Come on! That's Chaos. He joined them, Kazuchika Okada stable, but he was still acting heelish. He was bullying Yoshihashi, who's a generic kind of jobber type wrestler. He was bullying him while tagging with him on tour and stuff like that. But he was still a part of Chaos. He came out in the press conference and said that he was going to take out Okada and be the leader of Chaos. Eventually, Okada laughed that off. He was the reigning IWGP Heavyweight Champion at the time. And then they fought each other. They were drawn in a group. They fought each other at G1 Climax. Okada had since lost the championship to Kenny Omega. He was because Okada's it was such a long reign, and Okada's identity was wrapped up so much with the championship. He was kind of going through an identity crisis. He didn't have an entrance anymore because he wasn't the Rainmaker. He wasn't the money guy. He like started bringing out red balloons. He dyed his hair red. He got new red gear. And he was just kind of like, it was weird seeing Okada that way, and it was supposed to be. Jay White ended up beating him, which was a shock for a lot of people, but then he ended up not winning the group phase, which Tanahashi won, and Tanahashi eventually won the entire thing. But he also beat Tanahashi in the group stage, so he got a shot at Tanahashi's briefcase, lost that, then attacked Tanahashi and Okada after their briefcase match that they had, which led to the Booker in New Japan. We spoke about him earlier. Gato for years was Okada's manager, and it got a lot of shit as well, because a lot of people were like, well, look, Okada gets booked so strongly and the Booker's his manager. It was kind of like Vince Roman Reigns style situation where people kind of tried to backlash on Okada, but then he's such a fucking good wrestler that it never really caught on. But Gato ended up coming out and kind of stopping Switchblade, making the save, then turned on Okada for the first time in like 6 years. They'd been a duo, and then turned on him. And yeah, since Okada was basically in New Japan, since he came back from excursion as the Rainmaker, Gato was by his side. So he turned on him. That was a big deal. The two of them later joined Bullet Club as well, leading to this. Look, the reality is with Switchblade, New Japan, they put a lot of stock in him and they've been getting mixed results. It was, like I said, a letdown against Tanahashi at the Tokyo Dome last year. His character stuff and his promos have been great. Like, I like the idea of Switchblade. It's just the in-ring stuff, it's hit and miss. He's had really good matches with Kenny Omega, which was at New Beginning last year, where he won the US Championship, and he had a decent reign as champion there. It felt right for him to be in that kind of mid-card spot. He had a great match with Omega, though a lot of people do. That was, of course, the match where the Golden Lovers reunited, you might remember. He had a great match with Hangman Page, a strong style evolved, and some decent showings at the G1 too. But sometimes when he's in a big situation, it just doesn't pan out. It just never clicks. It never gets to that kind of stage. So the question is he ready, or are they forcing it? Are they just do they like the idea of Jay White and they're plowing through in a Roman Reigns style without it necessarily fully clicking? He is similar to Roman Reigns in that it's not like, I acknowledge that Jay White is a good wrestler, I acknowledge Roman Reigns is a great wrestler, it's just there's something missing, and that's where I'm at with him, and I think a lot of people are at the same. But the booking for this has been really good. Here's the thing. He's in there with one of the GOATs. Genuinely, Kazuchika Okada, one of the GOATs. I'm not being hyperbolic there. His title reign was reminiscent of like Shawn Michaels in 1995 or 6, whenever he had that amazing year. Ric Flair in like 1988-89, when they speak of legendary years where it's like going from town to town, man, wrestling 5-star classics and then coming back and wrestling another one the next night. He had like established himself as possibly the most talented wrestler in the world, capable of having the best match with anyone constantly, time after time after time. When he had the title match, the main event, he put on absolute clinics. He's wrestling in the Tokyo Dome, and he is coming out as the fallen ace kind of character, but look, he's still the same guy. This is still the Tokyo Dome. This is his match. This could be kind of the payoff to the climax where he finds himself and builds himself back up to become the IWGP champion again, maybe at Wrestle Kingdom the following year. New Japan books these things like way in advance. They're nut jobs. So he's like, but he's a great wrestler, and Tokyo Dome is his jam. He wrestles the match everyone talks about, the 6-star classic with Kenny Omega, the absolute epic match with Tetsuya Naito last year, Tanahashi, the feud with them. He doesn't have bad matches in the Tokyo Dome. So if Okada can't get a great match out of Switchblade at this match, then you need to start worrying about Switchblades. And Okada, he's still doing it. Like, he won the Blowy this year for Japan and Indie Match of the Year with Kenny Omega. He does, like, his new look and attitude and stuff like that. Again, it's one of these things where it's like, it's also the storyline, but it's still not clicking. But that's also the point of it. So I have faith that they're going to pull it out of the bag. The thing is, it's an unpredictable match, though. Does Okada need to win this to set himself straight? Does he need to remember who he is and finally vanquish Jay White? Or is this one of those things where they're going to be like, Jay White beat Okada in the Tokyo Dome? I think New Japan lean on Okada a lot, and they default to him a lot in these kind of situations. They protect him. He is still the ace. He is still the guy. He held the belt for so long that they needed to refresh it because he'd wrestled everyone, and they needed new matches. They needed to give Kenny Omega his shot as well, and they needed something else at the top of the card, or else it'd start to seem samey. But he's still the guy, very much so, and I think he's winning here. But I wouldn't be surprised if they went with Jay White. I just think sometimes you gain more by losing than winning, but like having a hard-fought loss. And I think Switchblade, just by being here and losing to Okada, would be better. But then you've got the Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania effect in, because it's like he fought Tanahashi last year, he lost. He fought Okada this year and he lost. You could obviously get a storyline out of that, but at the same time it's like, oh, Jay White loses the big matches, so we don't need to take him seriously. So that's what Gato has to weigh up and decide on. Now the reality is, this result was decided months ago, the way Gato works, but we have to now try figure it out. I just think they're going to default to Okada. Like, if Jay White beat Okada, who never loses in Tokyo Dome, like he hasn't lost since the Tanahashi feud, since he wrestled Tanahashi a few times and finally vanquished him in the Tokyo Dome to become the ace, and he hasn't lost in Tokyo Dome then. There is the risk with Jay White that this is a bit of a Chris Jericho Fandango situation where it's like, I can't believe they did that because it didn't really work out in hindsight. I think New Japan have to be self-aware enough to know that. Default to Okada, let him get his mojo back, and start the rebuild towards the title chase. But then there are consequences with Switchblade. It's just Okada's more important than Switchblade. I'm going with Okada. Semi-main event. IWGP Intercontinental Championship on the line, Chris Jericho versus Tetsuya Naito. It's a rematch of the Dominion bout, which was all set up at New Year's Dash last year, of course, the night after Wrestle Kingdom. And it got us all salivating. Chris Jericho, we were all wondering after Naito lost to Okada in the main event, where it seemed like he was destined to win, what's going to happen with Naito? What do you do now that he doesn't have his reason for existing? His entire character motivation was getting back to the Tokyo Dome and winning that match. What do you do now? I think that Chris Jericho was the answer, because Jericho was sticking around and he attacked him. And yeah, so that's what got us here. We were all bulling for that match because Jericho was coming off the 5-Star Classic with Omega. But the problem was Jericho's a part-timer. And it's like, it's not great, because you think about where we were about that match then, and you think about where we are now with it. It's not the same. It's not the same. I think the problem with this feud is it may have accidentally stunted both men. I see what they're going for, but they're kind of paying Jericho a bit too much respect. They're kind of letting him be a bit indulgent, where it's like, oh, guys, like a win over me is it'll make a legend out of you tonight. It's like, yeah, you said that about Fandango too. Like, I think they are placing a bit too much stock and relying too much on us feeling that Naito beating Jericho is a foregone conclusion, or like is a big deal that like will set Naito straight, when it's more of a foregone conclusion. And it's just like, yeah, he's going to win. Like, that's what's going to happen here. Why would you have Jericho win? But we thought that in Dominion too. Like, we were like, all right, that's what's happening here. They're going to have a match and Naito's going to win because Jericho's not going to wrestle regularly. Why would they give him the Intercontinental Championship? They just wouldn't have a secondary title then if Jericho's going to go off. And that's exactly what they did. They had Jericho beat the piss out of him. They did it well in that it was more of a brawl. Jericho attacked him. Naito wears a suit out to the ring and then takes it off. He's tranquilo. He's cool. He never acts really particularly fussed or fazed by the occasion of the match, which was tragic last year because when he was wrestling Okada in that Tokyo Dome match, it was like his reason for existing, but he was still acting tranquilo about it all. And then, like, for one moment, he got excited. He looked out to the crowd and he was like, "Yes, I'm gonna fucking do it!" Because he had all the momentum. And that momentary pause where he dropped his tranquilo was enough for Okada to get the win. But that's Naito's kind of gimmick. He's chilled. He's cool. He comes out in a suit like he doesn't give a rat's. Takes the suit off. Jericho attacked him in Dominion while he was wearing the suit, and he never kind of recovered from from that. Jericho ended up winning, and then he just fucked off for a few months. Now he's made appearances and done promos and stuff like that, but he hasn't defended the title. I think they're going for Brock Lesnar heat, like what WWE think it is, where it's like special attraction, but they're actually getting Brock Lesnar heat as it actually is, which is like, we just want the title. We don't care that much about you, Chris. Soz. So yeah, that's what's leading up to this match. I don't know if there's anything to be said for continuing Jericho's title reign. If they are, it'd have to be short. Like maybe he fights Kota Ibushi or Okada at New Beginning. I want to see Jericho Okada. That's one Jericho match I do want to see. Maybe at Dominion or something like that. That'd be class. I'd be into it. But even then, doesn't need to be for the title. Like, Naito needs a win back in the Tokyo Dome after the last year. He needs something, because he was, like, a year ago, I remember telling people, I'm like, Naito's the next ace, no matter what. Even after he lost, I'm like, he's still the next ace. Like, that's just like Tanahashi and Okada, where Okada seemed predestined to beat Tanahashi in the Dome first time round and then didn't. But it was like, no, they're going to come back for another one. Naito has now had that twice with Okada, and they're obviously third time lucky he's going to get the big W. Because he's the next guy in line. He's the most over with the crowd. They love him. But a year later, I don't know if I feel as sure about that. I feel you have to grab these windows while you have the opportunity, and they definitely did have the opportunity there. Like, I was in Tokyo Dome last year, I don't know if I mentioned it, for Naito Okada, and there was, New Japan fans are respectful. They're quiet. They let the wrestlers wrestle. They watch it intently. They pay a lot of attention to it, and they don't pop unless something big happens. But they're not smarky. I was sitting around smarky US fans, which annoyed me, because it's like, you're in their home, act like they do. Show respect. But the Japanese fans, I was watching intently during this match and keeping an eye on how they reacted. And when Naito lost, they got smarky. They got pissed. They got like Roman Reigns wins the Royal Rumble angry. So yeah, it's an interesting one, where I'm like, I get the logic of what they're going for, but I worry that they may have missed a window. I don't know because the problem is he's been in a holding pattern for the past year. The first half of the year was they set up the Jericho match at New Year's Dash. Then he had to win the belt off Suzuki in around March or April, I think it was. And then that obviously led to the Dominion match where Jericho won. The second half of the year has been him just kind of faffing about, waiting for the Jericho match, because that's defined his year. So it's just like, oh, Naito's there, and we've gotten used to him. Maybe some of the specialness is worn off because he's not been treated as special every show, because he doesn't have that much to do all the time. So I don't know, even if you went all in tomorrow and had him come out on New Year's Dash and had him confront Kenny Omega or Tanahashi and say, I want the belt right now, and you had him win the belt at New Beginning, which is probably the plan. I think the plan for the heavyweight title is you're going to have Naito win the belt, and he'll come into and Okada rebuilds himself and wins the G1, and then next year's Wrestle Kingdom main event is Naito against Okada, but Naito's the champion this time, and it's like, who's going to get their big W, and they'll want to sell out Tokyo Dome with that match in 2020. I think that's the plan, but the problem is even if they did something like that, where it's like a quick hotshot shock, and all of a sudden it's like, Naito's back to where he was, he's class, love him again. I don't know if fans necessarily go fully all in for him now, because I think they're after doing damage by having him in this holding pattern. So it's tough. Naito's winning this. 95% Naito, 5% Jericho, wins and wrestles Okada at New Beginning or something like that. But I think Naito's winning this. I don't see a massive benefit that you can't get from Jericho without the belt. So Naito, this is nailed on for me. What isn't as much nailed on is the main event. The IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Kenny Omega defends against Hiroshi Tanahashi. And I love the build to this. This is why, like I said in the package earlier, New Japan is wrestling for adults. And they're being very self-aware about this match, because you look at this and you're like, when Tanahashi won the G1, I'm like, do I want Omega against Tanahashi? Is that a match I was thinking about? Is that a match I wanted? And that's kind of the point of this. They're self-aware. This angle is meta, and that tends to be what they are. Because the main event at Wrestle Kingdom sets the tone for all of wrestling. Because even WWE, you look at them now, like, they sign up the indie talent like there's no tomorrow, and New Japan is the pinnacle of all of that. They're the real trendsetters for what wrestling is and what it will become. The main event is obviously then important because that is the one that sets the tone for the rest of the year. They've become self-aware in this match because it's a battle of styles, it's a battle of eras, it's a fork in the road match that kind of tips the hat to what the future of New Japan will be, at least the immediate future. Does Kenny Omega get his Tokyo Dome main event win? I don't know if that's ever happened with a Gaijin. I'm not sure. Maybe Brock Lesnar. Yeah, I don't know. But will he get his big win? That's what this has been building up to, and get the nod from the office as their guy once and for all. Or do they default in times of uncertainty to the old ace, the John Cena of New Japan, Hiroshi Tanahashi, who shepherded them into this glorious new era that they're enjoying? You think that it is going to go all one way. Like, you look at it and you're like, yeah, obviously Omega's winning. He's getting the endorsement off the John Cena. That's what's happening here. It's like Roman Reigns against The Undertaker, and it's a passing of the torch. That's what's going on. But then you have to consider that Kenny Omega's contract runs out January 31st. We're used to this. After Wrestle Kingdom, the WWE kind of rumors begin. Now, New Japan have counterbalanced that after that year where they basically robbed AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, Shinsuke Nakamura from under their nose right after Wrestle Kingdom. So now they do the contracts on January 31st, so they can't appear in the Rumble. But having said that, Omega's contract still does run out. And while it looks like he's all set to go to All Elite Wrestling, we don't have confirmation either way. WWE could have thrown him a crazy offer, so there is that. Tanahashi has also needled him here by making a big deal of him and putting up posts on social media about him re-signing with the company. So he's like, well, I'm sticking around anyway. So it's an interesting one. They do like to do this Omega dance every couple of years, but I don't know. Like, I it's an interesting one to definitely think about, but I think he's re-signing. I think they would not have gone in this deep with him only to have him walk out. They have a commitment from him. They're just not tipping their hat to it. And like, in truth, if they had to go back to Tanahashi's a safe pair of hands. He always has great matches. But it'd be a disaster. It'd look really bad on New Japan where they're like, oh, the future, we're now building a competitor to WWE now. We are in that league. We're selling out Madison Square Garden. It'd look bad if they're like, it's like WWE now giving the belt to John Cena. It's like, yeah, you know, like, no one can say you don't deserve it, but like, I feel like we're kind of past that whole thing. So I don't think they would have. I think Omega's staying around. Either way, whichever way you go in this match. The storyline, though, is meta as well. It's like two smart marks having a fight. And it's great because that's what this is. It's a match about styles and the way forward. It's about Omega talking about Tanahashi's style, which is all very like storyline based. Like Tanahashi, he can fly around. Like he can mix it up with the juniors, like the best of them, even at his increased age and experience at this stage. He can still fly around. He loves a high spot. Don't get me wrong, but his story is his style is very much storyline based. It's about mattering from bell to bell. You're telling a story. You're taking fans on an epic, wild journey. It's based around more selling than high spots, around more storyline than gifts, you know. So that's where Tanahashi's kind of domain is. Omega has in interviews said that he respects Tanahashi's style, but it belongs in the past. It's not the way forward with wrestling. Whereas Tanahashi has come out and said that only the last 5 minutes of Omega's matches matter. You can miss the rest of it and tune in for the 5 minutes. That's the part that matters. That's the part that tells the story. He's basically just calling him a spot monkey. It's great. There's a lot of shoot elements to this. Obviously, the two guys have talked about this and enjoy it and have a plan, and this is what they're working towards. But it's great. The bit of like the needle in there. Because Omega's style, I call it borderline reckless so often here on Low Blows. That's what he is. He comes out and does crazy shit, and he's going to do crazy shit in this. Omega's style is that, where it's like, again, where you're just worrying. It's like a guy who will risk everything in the pursuit of absolute perfection. That's what Kenny Omega is. He's like, I will risk my life at this one moment for this, and I will have you worry about me. I will risk breaking my neck. I don't care. Similar in theory to what we were saying about Will Ospreay earlier. So it's like epic journey versus taking risks and giving everything you have. That's kind of where this match is set up, and they obviously have a plan for how that's going to meet in the middle, and it's going to be fantastic. You also have to take into account, though, the Kota Ibushi factor, because obviously Kota Ibushi is one half of the Golden Lovers with Kenny Omega, and it was rumored that those two were going to have a match at Wrestle Kingdom. A lot of people were surprised when Tanahashi won the G1, beating Kota Ibushi in the final. Kota Ibushi, who'd just beaten Kenny Omega to get to that final. A lot of people were expecting the Golden Lovers to have their match at that. I think they'll probably do that next year along with Okada and Naito. I'd say that's nailed on to be the IC title match. Though you also have to fit in Tanahashi. I won't even get started booking Wrestle Kingdom 14. That's for afterwards. But at the same time, he calls, while he's Kenny Omega's tag team partner and rumored life partner as well, he also calls Tanahashi a god. He says he's his mentor, he's the person he looked up to. But at the same time, what he says is that he doesn't subscribe to either style. He wants to do Kota Ibushi style, which is obviously influenced by both, but very much himself. And even when you watch him in the ring, that's kind of what you get at the end of the day. He at the end of the G1 climax, when Tanahashi won, he offered a handshake. Kota Ibushi refused to shake it, and later said that when all this talk of Clash of Styles was coming about, that's why he didn't shake it, because he'd feel like he was signing up to the Tanahashi side of things. He looked over, if you watch the GIF now, it's very dramatic. He looked over at Tanahashi while he was offering his hand. He looked over at Kenny Omega and he's like, I'm not taking a side here. So there could be some interference from Kota Ibushi here as well. Tanahashi is needled there as well. He's coming in. Tanahashi's great. He's just speaking his mind. He's known for it as well. And it's like John Cena when he comes out and calls out the roster and stuff like that. It is very true. Tanahashi's needled it, and he said that Omega is using Ibushi, and that he's Omega is happy with the tag team because he always gets to be the leader. But the thing with the Golden Lovers is that when they've wrestled one-on-one, I think it's happened twice in singles important matches, Kota Ibushi has won. So there's that too. Omega has actually never beaten Ibushi, but he is the guy in that tag team. So Tanahashi is kind of trying to get under Kota Ibushi's skin there. You think back to even Kenny Omega, they had a three-way for the IWGP title at Kings of Pro Wrestling. It was Kenny Omega against Cody, against Kota, and Ibushi had Cody pinned. He had him beat. Omega came across and broke up the pin, which obviously I don't really see much of a problem. It's three-way dance, and it's Omega's title. I don't really see a problem with it, but they did make a big deal of Omega just cost Ibushi that shot, so that could be relevant there. We know that Omega and Ibushi want to fight. In real life, they want to fight, and they want to fight in the Tokyo Dome. It's been a really protected match in New Japan history, and it seems likely that it will happen eventually. Maybe that will happen next year. I think it will be. But could we see a twist here with Ibushi? Could we see him involved? If he's getting involved, I think he's screwing Kenny Omega. I think he's definitely going to be in the corner, and much like the G1 final with Ibushi against Tanahashi, Ibushi had Omega in his corner then, Tanahashi had Shibata in his corner then for pops. Shibata was a rival of Tanahashi's, but they've got a mutual respect now. Shibata's obviously finished wrestling. He had his own neck injury, not dissimilar to concussion injury and headaches and whatnot, not dissimilar to Hiromu Takahashi, which ended his career. So I think we will see Ibushi and Shibata in the corners again. Could Ibushi get involved? It's rare that New Japan would do a finish like that, especially in a match this big. But there could be some afters after the bell. So which way is this going? I think it's going to Omega. I think that's what this is. This is going to be his moment in the Tokyo Dome. He's wrestled such great matches. His feud hasn't had, or his title reign since beating Okada in that Absolute 2 out of 3 Falls Classic at Dominion. It hasn't had a defining match yet. It has kind of been a letdown. It's one of those situations where the anticipation is better than the actual delivery. But at the same time, I think Omega's winning this. I've got him here. I think it's going to be absolutely epic. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be the best match in the card, and that's saying something with the amount of matches that are going to that have absolute show stealers on it. I think it's a great card. I was a bit iffy about it because it didn't have any of the dream matches like the Okada Naito or the Ibushi Tanahashi, but what they don't have in that one match that you're looking forward to, they have about 6 matches that are absolute quality, but I think this will be the match of the night and deserve its spot in the main event, and I think Omega is standing tall, but there could be a split with Ibushi coming very shortly. If not after the bell, then maybe a New Year's Dash, so keep an eye out for that as well. So that's the card. Are you as hyped as I am? Are you even still listening? Tweet me if you're still listening right now. I want to know. Tweet the Low Blows account or tweet me at AMT Rick. I want to know who's actually still listening to this point. And thank you fucking legend. Let's have a fucking pint. There you go. I will buy you a pint in Buskers on Friday if you're still listening to this point. You absolute hero. I'm psyched. I think you can tell. So before we go, guys, I'm going to leave you alone. I've taken up enough of your time, but I'm going to leave you with, that's the preview. That's what you need to know. But now, I'm obviously a fanboy. I'm psyched for this. Here's an honest trailer for Wrestle Kingdom 13.
In a world where we just sat through months of Baron Corbin as GM, WWE are buying up talent like real estate, and Cody fucking Rhodes might get a ton of money to book himself as a main eventer, comes the one last constant in wrestling today: Wrestle fucking Kingdom. Choose what dickhead you'd rather be on Twitter this January. Do you want to be this dickhead?
Ospreay versus Ibushi was a transcendent experience. I felt like my soul left my body. 17 stars on an avocado toast.
Or do you want to be this dickhead?
Yeah, I didn't like our stupid New Japan anyway. Wrestling got shit when they let women do it.
Either way, you're going to be a dickhead. In the main event, Kenny Omega defends his IWGP belt against Hiroshi Tanahashi. Can the best belt machine shake a shit nickname and become the coolest wrestler in the world again? Can Tanahashi proved that he's not just here because someone pressed reset on the New Japan video game and he was the first boss?
Very good, guys. Chris Jericho here, and we'll get back to talking about Wrestle Kingdom shortly. But if you were wondering how I'm still in great shape to wrestle Tetsuya Naito, let me tell you about DDP Yoga.
We weren't, Chris. We were just wondering why you're still here. Plus, it's Red Hair Don't Care, Kazuchika Okada versus Red Gear. How did you get here, Jay White, in a grudge match? Kushida takes on Taiji Ishimori in a battle of two guys you pretend to watch all the time. Cody gets his mandatory booking on a big show while we all sit around and pretend he's a great wrestler. Will Ospreay and Kota Ibushi commit dual suicide on television and nobody does anything to stop them. Ishii proves he's the best wrestler in the world again, and the world promptly forgets by the time the show is over. And not one, but 2 three-way tag matches. Because why would a tag team wrestler have time to think about how to book an original tag team storyline? Join us in Buskers on the Ball, where, thanks to Low Blows, you can look like an expert to your friends who also listen to Low Blows and knows you're quoting stuff for that, but they're sound, so they won't call you out. Wrestle Kingdom 13, the one show a year even Twitter can't ruin.
And that's all there is to it, guys. This Friday, Buskers on the Ball. It's going to be absolutely class. I cannot wait. So join us. 5 p.m. doors open. Tickets will be available on the doors. There'll be plenty of seating and whatnot for everyone, so just come on down. If you want a table, we'll have until maybe Thursday, or I'll give you until Wednesday midnight to book a ticket, and I think we still do have a few tables. Tables are being given out first to Low Blows Network subscribers, which of course the party is free to if you're an €8 or more subscriber at patreon.com/lowblows, or to ticket holders. Tickets are just €5 on eventbrite.ie or on the door as well. But if you book on eventbrite.ie before Wednesday midnight and we have enough space, we will reserve a table automatically, and you don't need to do anything. You just need to book your ticket, and then your table will be waiting for you when you get there Friday. Again, that's space permitting. That's as long as you do. We have to give it out to the people who booked first and foremost, but I think there's still a few left. So get on that and come down to Buskers. Have your first great night out of the year. It's a Friday night. You can go out on the town afterwards. You can head home happy in the knowledge that you saw a classic wrestling show. But make sure you get down there because it's going to be class. We will be back next week with Katie Harvey and Corporate Keen back on. And it's been a busy Christmas break because Katie Harvey had the man come around to Fight Factory, Becky Lynch. She's going to be giving us the full scoop on that when she gets back. We're definitely going to have to talk about that. And me and Corporate Keen have had a busy Christmas break as well. We have not taken any time off, even though you haven't heard as much from us. We are very busy in the background. We hope to have an announcement up on Wednesday night that we're very excited about, and it's something that people have been asking us to do for years. So we're going to have that out on Wednesday night. You'll see it on any of our social media, don't worry. And then once it's out, we will talk about it in depth and give you the full story about how it came to be and what's coming up on next week's edition of Low Blows when we return back to normal. But until then, enjoy Wrestle Kingdom Friday. I hope to see you in Buskers on the Ball. We'll be talking about it all next week on Low Blows. But until then, that's the bottom line, because Low Blows said so.